So, good morning, all, or afternoon, all, wherever you may happen to be. So, what we'll be talking about today is how the neural processes from skin up spinal cord up into the various regions of the brain unfold in very rapid rhythmic succession, the imprint of ourselves and our world into consciousness. And Jason Brown, whose work we're going to be looking at, is the only neurologist that I've ever read that describes this process in a way that remotely connects to my own experience of how I perceive myself, how I perceive the world, how I color the world with all my nonsense. And it's a very existential vision of things, and has given me the most coherent and secure grounding in what this thing we're working with that we call consciousness all the time, 24/7. So the first thought I want to, oh yes, and I want to say that we're not focusing so much on anatomy today. We're focusing on the processes that anatomy and neurology produce in the waves of consciousness of the present now in each of our moments of life. So much of the material we will be looking at will be just pictures like this of script. And just let me read the script to you and let the words wash over you. Read along to cement what I'm saying if that helps you. But don't try to figure out every panel of script as the webinar unfolds. Jason Brown once said, to understand anything, you have to understand everything at once. So understanding everything at once so we can grasp any particular thing is the thing I'm trying to weave today. So be patient, and by all means, ask questions in the chat room as we proceed. I will handle them as best I can in the middle of this unfolding, and we'll have time for questions at the end to try to pull all this together for you. So the first thing I want to pose is thinking and feeling about the thing we are feeling and thinking with, and perceiving the thing we are perceiving with, are very squirrely and elusive enterprises. You may not be what you think you are, but what you think you are. And this is the unfoldment that I'm hoping to bring some coherence to today. So the microgenesis of the now is Jason Brown's primary topic. What microgenesis means is very rapid rhythmic pulsations of neural activity mushrooming through our system from periphery to cord to brain structures and finally into conscious perceptual fields. These rhythms happen, he posits, somewhere on the order of 1/10 of a second. So every 1/10 of a second, the entire trajectory of my tissue, my core self, my felt sense of self, and that felt sense of self then projecting out into a world which my perceptual processes deliver to me. So this is a theory of the growth of the mind, neurologically, evolutionarily, embryologically, and the growth of layers and elaborations of this perceptual process. So the process of perception is our topic today, and the work of Jason Brown. Now, I first found the book that all of this is is coming from. Let me get this straight for everybody. I was just browsing around the Stanford University bookstore, and I looked up and I saw this bright spine that was standing out from all the other more or less gray spines. And I just pulled it down and I read that title and I went, oh, this could be interesting. And I read and reread and read and reread this thing for a long period of time. And in my attempt to absorb this fantastic thing that he's talking about. Now, I found out that this copy was one of 300 copies in the world. It was a very small run of printing, and the distributor managed to lose over half of them in the chain of distribution. So I realized I had my hands on a very precious object here, and an object that had not reached the world in any kind of spacious sense. So I talked to my publisher and I sent him the book I just showed you, and he agreed to republish Jason Brown's book. And this is the title that we gave the reprint, The Self-Embodying Mind. And I wrote a 15-page introduction to that you'll find in this edition, which was my attempt to encapsulate in briefer form the elaboration of the many complicated things that book informs us about. And Jason Brown once told me after this publication came out, he read my introduction and wept and said to himself, somebody got it. So I'm trying to pass that, whatever I got, onto you concerning this central topic with our integrity of self and the integrity of the world I'm projecting around me. Now, as I said, this is quite a squirrely process because reality is what we take to be true. Take being the operative word there. What we take to be true is what we believe. What we believe depends upon our perceptions. And what we perceive depends upon what we're looking for. What we look for then depends upon what we think. And what we think depends upon what we perceive. And what we perceive depends upon what we believe. And what we believe determines what we take to be true. So you can see the circular process that's going on in this. And you can see the possibility for so much projection of what I take to be true, what I believe, what I look for, and the world that I deposit into my conscious surround is dependent on that cycle of what I take to be true based on these stages of transition. The basis of the theory is that our only way of knowing about self and world are mental processes. Very important axiom to keep in mind. There is an in here and there is an out there. But our only way of accessing them is through mental representation. The self and world that we know are ultimately artifacts of the mind, created by our sensorium, recreated by our memory in each moment, and each moment providing a complete redeposit of all of that neural activity. The world is the creation of the mind, as Buddhist thought would have it. Now we're presented with many models of the mind structure and operations, and this is the one that has been handed down to us in our technological age. In all ages, people have imagined the mind working like the most complicated technology that was present at the time. Um, so what we have in our technological time is the theory of mind as basically a computational object that zips information around its various layers and systems, much like a computer. And this leads the text